Hello and welcome to the Buckets and Tea NBA show. I'm your host, Cathryn Naiker. Thanks so much for tuning in to this week's episode. Joining me this week, you know her, you love her. She is the editor-in-chief of Raptors HQ. Give it up for Chelsea Leite. Yes. How are you, Chelsea?
I'm good. I'm deep in the madness of March, so we're getting by.
Deep in the madness of March, as are many people.
Yeah.
I, as myself included, Freddie and I, shout out to Freddie from Confederacy of Dunks. We've been covering March Madness as well on our W Pod the Pickup. Freddie did something. We recorded our episode last night. He did something so funny. I'm still laughing about it. So somehow we got sidetracked, as we do, right?
Yeah.
And I showed the picture. Chelsea, you've seen this little pin that I made for my 40th birthday of a photo of me. Yeah. Of me as like a child. You can see it here if you're watching on YouTube. So I have this on my desk. So I showed it. And then Freddie was like, let me see if I can find an older, cute photo of me. And then he busts out his passport.
His passport.
And shows his passport page. I'm like, Freddie, what are you doing? This is going on YouTube. It's like all your passport information.
Oh, Freddie.
It's like the photo page with all the details. And I'm like, you can't show that.
Freddie and I recently competed in an improv tournament together. Where we matching Caitlin Clark jerseys.
Oh, incredible.
Second round. We didn't make it past the second round, but we did make it to the second round, which this is an incredibly hard tournament to make it even past the first round. So I was really happy we made it past the first round. But anyway, it was such a hilarious experience because obviously, one, it's improv, so you never know what you're going to get. But then it's also like Freddie. So the one that we got through to the second round, at one point during the set, we were Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen in a bathroom stall. Like, there was just a lot going on.
Wait, who's who?
I was Scottie Pippen. No. Yeah, I think he was Michael Jordan, but it was a lot. And like, because of that, we made it through. And then it was funny because we were wearing these Caitlin Clark jerseys and, with the understanding that some people would understand what we were wearing. And we get off stage and after some guy comes up to me in the bar and he's like, I'm from Iowa and I saw your jerseys and I got so excited. I'm like, what the frick are you doing here? Like, why are you in Toronto when you're from Iowa? But okay. So yeah, that was my recent.
Oh, but that's cool though.
Yeah.
Did you ask him what he's doing in Toronto?
No, I wasn't really that interested.
Oh.
He was
maybe he was related to Nick Nurse.
Maybe.
But if you're from Iowa, you gotta be
of the Nurse family.
Of the Nurse family or something close.
Or something.
I wore I have Casey Bannerman's Lower Merion sweater. So it's like Kobe Bryant's high school jersey, but it's a sweater.
Yeah.
And one time I was wearing that. I think I was at Comedy Bar and this guy came up to me and he was like, I'm from Philly. And I just have to tell you that sweater's so cool and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, thank you, man. That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. I do love when I'm wearing like very niche basketball gear out in the world. Or like, oh, that's so cool. And I'm like,
yeah. Very cool. Well, shout out Casey.
Yeah.
I got to get him back on this show, actually. But anyways, let's get into it. Let's get into some NBA stuff before we get into some Raptor stuff. Chelsea, I emailed you today with topics as I do with every guest. And I just said, this time of year in the NBA really sucks. Yeah. This isn't a news article. It's not any of that. It's an observation because, I'm old, as we will talk about throughout every episode. I remember a time when this time of year in NBA basketball was really exciting because you had people jockeying for playoff positions. And to some extent, we have that. We have that with like a handful of teams. But everyone else is either resting for the playoffs or resting to tank. Like, like really egregious resting, like to the point where like I can't believe the league isn't throwing out more fines right now. Like
Well,
like
because
Quentin Grimes
yeah,
from the Philadelphia 76ers was out of a game due to rest.
yeah,
A team that has so many like what? Like
yeah,
they have
and it,
so many injuries, they only have so many active players. Respectfully to Quentin Grimes, you don't need to rest. At least lie and say you have a cold and put it as illness or
yeah,
something like you're really gonna tell me you need to quote unquote like
but
rest or it's not even like a personal day? Like
it's not
I just
anything, though.
it's getting gross out there. It's getting
It's
sloppy and it's getting a little sad.
I definitely like I don't think it's Quentin being like I need to rest. Like they're telling them to
Oh,
rest.
for sure. Yeah,
Like
I
and
completely agree. Yeah.
And to your point about like the why isn't the W or the W? Everything's women's basketball to me. Why isn't the NBA doing anything? It's because their rules have to do with stars. So you have to be an all-star in the past 3 years for those rules to apply to you. So like for example,
Right.
the only person on the Raptors team that they would ever investigate would be Scotty Barnes. So these teams get away with it by getting those fringe guys to sit out. And I definitely agree. It's definitely an interesting brand of basketball these days. And
Yeah.
like, tanking just kind of annoys me because, like, don't get me wrong, I see the vision and like I see the vision. Like, you know, it's a tanking year for the Raptors. So obviously, we talk about this a lot, but like, I don't know. It's just also like at some point, like, what happened to respecting the game? Not to like be an old person yelling at the sky, but like just kind of
Yeah, not
sucks.
to be Grandpa Simpson next to the lemon tree,
Yeah.
but however, sorry, I just started thinking about the Shelbyville old man that says, "Now
Yeah.
drink your turnip juice."
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
but
And it's like
I just yeah,
yeah.
go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, like, obviously, I have a different perspective because I cover the WNBA as well. And that's a league that you really can't tank. Like, there's no, and because of like the lottery, they take 2 years into account. So unless you want to tank for 2 years,
Mm.
like, and there's so many fringe teams, so like, and there's so much more. Like, it's the talent is more like condensed, obviously, because it's
And
a
fewer games,
yeah,
right? Like it's
whatever. So
yeah,
everything's like a little bit more like what's the word? Concentrated. There we go. Um and so like you can't really tank because there's only 4 lottery spots, soon to be 5, maybe 6. I don't know what how they're going to do expansion. But
mhm.
like as of right now, the current WNBA, there's such little room for error that even teams that are lower than, 500 record are still in the playoffs. So like you can't really tank. And so
No.
if you end up being on that lower end of the lottery whatever side of things, it's because your team like genuinely doesn't have any talent, and then therefore the system works because then
Yeah.
you get talent. So it's
Yeah,
like
or they had like a really bad injury to like a
yeah,
star or
or
something. Yeah.
something, yeah, or like you're Connecticut and every single player decided to dip, like so
Right.
it's like I compare it a lot to that because even at the end of the season, there's still like you very rarely know the last few teams in the playoffs slash the lottery until like the day that the season is done.
Mm.
So, and I mean, there's like,
Yeah.
good reason to try and make a playoff push, or even, and then when you don't make a playoff push, then you still get a lottery pick. So it's like,
Yeah, because there's a lot of quote unquote how do we fix the league
yeah,
conversation. And I haven't really bought into a lot of it because I think a lot of it is sometimes a bit over exaggerated. Like when people complain about like the replays and, all the stoppages. And it's like, I agree the stoppages need to be more like shorter or more succinct somehow. But at
yeah,
the same time, I also remember when games were decided on really bad calls
yeah,
because they didn't have the chance to review. So it's like, this is still better than what it was, but it can be improved. But
mhm,
I think losing the excitement of this time of year
yeah,
is detrimental to the league. Like,
yeah,
I think like that is a problem that does need to be addressed because like leading up to the playoffs and the play in, which I think the play in is successful, um it should have way more momentum to it, and it used to, and I just think it's like it's sad that you have like good players resting on good teams, good players resting on bad teams, and it's like there's only like a handful, like the Lakers, the Warriors, those teams in that like close 4 or 5 spots really playing for anything right now, and it's just, I think it's a shame. And I, I mean, this could be a conversation about, like, should the league have fewer games? You know, there's also financial implications there, and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But I feel like someone needs to just give a shit. Is
Yeah.
that crazy to say? I don't mean to sound like so overly basic, but it's like
You know what
you get to a point where someone just needs to give a shit.
Yeah, it comes down to a simple thing for me, is that, and it's that you can't please men no matter what you do. These men are always going to be mad about something. And so it's like, you decide to tank, they're mad about it. You decide to rest people, they're mad about it. You make the season longer, they are mad because of it's too many games. You make the season shorter, they're mad because it's not enough basketball. Play-in tournament, they're mad because of whatever. It's just like they're always mad about something. And like, as a woman who has had to deal with men in my life in various capacities, they just need to learn to accept things. No, but it's just I don't know. My point here is that like nothing like these days you just can't make people happy. And especially when it comes to this like very capitalistic thing that sports and especially the NBA has come to, because like they get paid so much money. Like you can't give them less games because that means they're gonna find an excuse to pay them less. And all these guys want to be paid more and more and more and more and more until they're getting paid amounts of money that I can't even fathom to begin to comprehend in my mind. And then like if you say, oh, like, you know, you make stricter rules about tanking, people are mad because they want their draft picks. You make, you know, stricter rules about resting, you make people mad because of like people need rest or whatever. It's just like, I think I've just come to the point where you're never going to make people happy, especially men.
Wow. So is the NBA fan destined to just be frustrated and upset?
Well, you think about these guys who love sports, they're just like looking for some sort of drama to make them feel something that they can actually like express. Wow, this became really like really heated towards my
This is not how I framed the topic. Just for clarity.
I'm not like a big hater. Unfortunately, I like men too much. But where was I going with this? Oh, where I was going with this is just like, yeah, like not to get all like capitalism up in here, but like there's not a good solution. Like and like they've come to this point where they just tried to like add and make the fans happy and do all this stuff that it's just gotten too much. And like if you try and scale back now, it's easy to add things on. It's much harder to scale back. So
Right.
and at the end of the day, like an 82 game season is long, like plus the playoffs is long. Like, you know, these guys are playing much older into their lives. And I mean, recovery stuff is good. So like it's helping them and whatever. So more technology. But like
That is true. A lot of players are playing later, like they're playing like well into like their late 30s, which
yeah.
didn't used to happen. That
So
is
like
very true.
you can't blame them for needing a little bit of rest around this time as you gain momentum for an exciting playoffs. And at the end of the day, like maybe this is the best time for it to be boring, because if you're like a real hoops fan, you're like watching March Madness right now. So like maybe you don't really have to pay much attention to the NBA. And then you just kind of like loop yourself back in after for the playoffs. I don't know. It's just kind of like at some point you just gotta be like, it is what it is. Like I'm not getting paid to
Like
make.
there has to be a boring time of year is what we're saying. So it
Yeah,
might as well be now.
yeah. There's just so much basketball. I think the product is just gonna be diluted no matter what. And because March Madness has grown into such an exciting thing, which is very good for the game, I think that it like something is gonna suffer, and it happens to be the NBA. And if these dudes are mad about it, then like tap into March Madness because we're having a great time over here.
I thought you were gonna be like solution oriented. Like you were gonna be
Whatever. I'm over it.
this is how we could fix it.
I'm tired of trying to make men happy.
Wow. What happened? Like, were you on a bad date recently?
I mean, it's just a rough time to be out here. I love that this has turned into this kind of conversation.
Listen, this is what buckets and tea is really all about,
It's
okay?
true.
Like we've got you've got other people doing the deep analysis, okay? We don't need to be those people.
No, we just need to talk about why
Yeah,
men.
like did you like what happened? I believe and people who listen to this podcast, like tell me
Yeah,
if I'm wrong. I believe there's a handful of men listening to this that would love our perspective on
true.
dates. Not that I mean, this is a basketball show, but truly, I do believe like they would love to know what we think about these things.
Oh man. Let's see. How can I make this succinct? Here's my
Mhm.
thing. People always think that because I work as a women's like sports journalist, I cover an NBA team. They think that I'm just like absolutely out here wheeling and dealing. But turns out that men don't like women who know more about basketball than they do.
Oh,
And
yeah,
that
that's
is kind of
true.
catalyst to a lot of my problems because then I get up in here and I'm like, oh, I interviewed whoever, like whatever, Darko the other day, and then they just get like jealous and mad, and then they just like leave. Like if like unfortunately that has happened too many times now that I'm like what am I
This
supposed to do?
this
Not
has happened with me. Yeah,
yeah.
like, with both being in sports and comedy.
Yes, yeah. Oh
It's
man.
like the 2 areas where, like, a lot of men like to kinda hang their cap, right?
Mhm.
Which is, like, great, I want you to hang your cap there, but just because I have 2
Yeah.
doesn't mean we can't be a thing, right? Like, I feel like, I guess a lot of guys, I'm not saying everybody, but a
Oh,
lot of guys do feel threatened by that, and I was like, I didn't know going into it. I was just, following my interests. Did not know I was picking, like, the 2
literally.
interests
It's funny.
that would alienate a lot of men, but it
Men.
does.
Yeah, I remember Blake Murphy once said to me, so I forget how we got on this topic, but Blake was like, "You picked the 2 worst industries for men, like, just being terrible to
Yeah.
to women." Like, "What how did you do this?" And I was just like, "I don't know, man." Like, I was just vibing, and all of a sudden now I'm here. And,
Is
like,
is Blake saying he's terrible to women?
no,
I'm just joking. I'm just
but, like, whatever.
Blake is a very nice guy.
Yeah, he's great. Hashtag not all men. Um, but yeah, I thought that I would be out here just like absolutely. I was like, I've tapped the code. I'm gonna be absolutely
Mm.
like, there's gonna be a lineup out my door of eligible, attractive men who want to take me to football Sunday and, talk game with me. But here we are. There's not.
Mm. Mm.
And they get mad.
It's true. I also like there's another thing that that I have that you don't have is height. Like
No,
I'm also as tall, if not taller than a lot of men too at
yeah,
5'10". So
which is
that just adds to it.
yeah.
And I'm, and I'm over 200 pounds. Not trying to change it.
No, like but you're
I'm just a
tall.
big girl. I just always have been.
And you
So,
rock
I
suit
take up I
and
take up
you're
space. I take up
yeah.
space. Figuratively and literally. I'm here taking up space and
Yeah,
time.
and time. End of your day if you're listening to this. So we're just yapping about men. But
Listen, the NBA season sucks right now. It
yeah,
really it truly does. I tried so hard. Like LeBron had an awesome interview recently on
yeah,
that Pat, what's his name? Pat McAfee? Pat
McAfee. Isn't he kind of problematic?
I mean, it wouldn't surprise
I
me.
mean,
Like I've never watched the show before. I've seen him. I haven't watched the show.
yeah,
It's got a major bro vibe
but
to
all of
it, like major like but in a way where it's like, ooh, like I don't know if I'd be like
safe.
comfortable. Yeah, like I
Yeah,
watch an episode of No Dunks, they're all just a bunch of
yeah,
dudes, but
dudes
I'm like,
being
"This is
girls.
fun."
Yeah,
And then I watch Pat McAfee, and I'm like, "Oh, I don't know. I don't know how I would fare in this environment."
yeah, yeah, dog. But anyway, LeBron had a good
He had
interview.
he had a phenomenal interview. It's like an hour, and
Yeah,
he talked about all these like really cool things, but it wasn't like oh, let's debate this.
no,
You know what I mean? Like there wasn't really anything I could extract to like really debate about it. I mean, he talked about like the beginning of his career. He joked about like if NIL existed when he was in high school. He talked about like, the move to Miami and then back to Cleveland in a very like candid way. He's starting his podcast up again with Steve Nash. He compared Stephen A. Smith to Taylor Swift, only in that he is quote on tour right now. And I was like, it's a bit of a stretch for me, but
this is the juiciest stuff we're getting right now. Like, this is it.
Yeah. And then he was like, oh, yeah, I get that he has a job, but it's also my job to protect my house and my players.
Sure.
Right? Like when they had that confrontation about Bronny.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Where he was just basically like back off. I mean, I think about it too, and it's like I know Bronny's a nepo baby, but he also did survive cardiac arrest. So like maybe we just like give him a break. Yeah. And he's like primarily in the G League. Like it's not like I don't know.
The G League is his college, which is fine. Like sure. And like we all definitely like breezed over that cardiac arrest thing way too fast. Like we were like the whole like literally since it happened, like why aren't we talking about like why?
LeBron said that he had like a birth defect that they were able to at least catch early enough on, which is good because I guess like as he was like bulking up like to the level of an athlete, that's when he started to have issues.
Yeah.
So it's like obviously he's gonna have to like manage that somehow. I don't even know how you manage that and then be an athlete at the same time.
It's wild. I can never.
He dispelled the rumor that he spends $1 million a year on his body. LeBron, he's like, I don't know where that came from.
Sure.
And I was like, I actually legit thought that was real.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been surprised.
It's like maybe it's not $1 million. I'm sure you spend a lot of money on it though.
Just like when I say I spend about $4 on my body a year, it's not surprising. This is the most unhinged episode. And I find every time I come on in your podcast, we just get more and more unhinged.
Look, I get discount floss for $4 a year, and that is all I spend. I'm trying to think, what could you spend on your health?
A long while.
That's only $4. I think floss is even more now. I bought floss recently. I'm pretty sure it was like $6.99.
There was a long time back, like a few years ago, when I was like real poor, like not even just like I'm poor, but like legitimately poor, where I was both grocery shopping and skincare shopping at Dollarama. So that's a rough time. So yeah.
You had a skincare routine?
Yeah.
I didn't have a skincare routine until like a couple years ago.
Yeah. So
it's just me.
Yeah. Anyway,
skincare routines are overrated. That's another hot take I have.
Yeah. Conspiracy.
They're super overrated. It's just genetics. You're either gonna wrinkle or you're not.
Sunscreen and genetics, honestly.
Sunscreen, don't smoke, drink water, and genetics. That's it. And then everything else is like a procedure.
Yeah. Everything else is just for the vibe.
Yeah, just truly.
It's kind of like what the NBA does. A lot of it's just for the vibe.
Listen, NBA. Sunscreen. I'm sorry this got so unhinged, but it's real dog days. And look, I'm not going to lie about it on this show. I'm not going to come on this show and pretend the NBA is interesting when it sucks ass right now. And that's like across the league.
Yeah. And like the only saving grace that I have is that I get to like go and like kind of see, like
you get to watch the Raptors. Last night, great game with Indiana and the Lakers.
Yeah.
The two teams that are trying right now. Thanks for coming out.
And the people, okay, I will admit the young Raptors kids are trying. That's why they're winning so much, because they're trying.
How do you think they feel? The trying this hard and then just being hated.
I don't think
the hateration, holleration in this dancery is so real.
I honestly, because like I see them on a somewhat regular basis, and they seem unfazed. They're joking. They're having a good time.
Good.
I think they've kind of learned to like block out the noise. I don't think the youth is on Twitter as much as they were like 5-10 years ago.
That's very true. Why would you be on Twitter now?
Yeah, and
but they're on other apps where they probably see shit, but it's probably not the same.
They see some of it, but at the same time, the vibe with this particular Raptors team in particular has always just kind of been like they're just here for the ride and they're having a good time. And the young guys in particular, I think, are all very like they're just like they're the kind of guys who like see the bright side in things, which is really like refreshing.
Mm.
And so like no matter what you come at them with, they're just kind of like, yeah, like I'm good. So they seem to be having a good time. I saw I was leaving the game the other day and I was kind of waiting for the elevator with Jamal Shed and he was waiting for Jacoby to come out. He was like yelling down the hall into the locker room like, "Jacoby, you're gonna miss the elevator!" And it was just like really funny. Like I was just like he was like dog he was just like joking about Jacoby and like him having to watch him like he's his kid. And I just like I'm like they're just having a good time. They're having a great time.
Aw, that's great.
So honestly, yeah, and I think for them it's like beneficial because they're showing out, like they're playing great, and
Mm.
like at the end of the day, it's gonna like help their careers. So why not?
Yeah, absolutely. It's in their best interest to show what they're capable of,
Yeah, of course.
right? Like for their
I'm
careers,
never gonna be
regardless of whatever the team's goals might be.
Yeah. Also, the other day, I saw Darko in the hall, and Darko's the
Mm.
kind of guy that like when you see him, no matter like he always is gonna say hi to you because he's just like nice and so.
Oh, that's cool.
So he like came up to me and he was like, "It's so nice to see you. How are you?" And I was like,
You're like,
"Darko."
you know who I am?
Yeah. Well, I'm also the like one of 3 women, so I feel like that's kind of like
That helps you stand out.
it helps me stand out. It helps me stand out.
Mm.
So
Is
he's
he
yeah,
short, Darko?
I mean, everyone's tall to me.
I guess.
For those of you who have never seen me in person, I'm like 5'1", so
Yeah, we've got like a
this
foot, but
feeling
we've
is
got almost a whole foot between us.
yeah. So like everyone's tall to me.
Interesting.
He's not tall, so yeah.
Yeah, he might be like my height.
Maybe at most.
Oh, okay, so he's probably
Yeah.
shorter than me.
Yeah.
Alright.
But you know, he makes up for it for by being
Short kings.
short king. And yeah, the other day he saw Doug Smith drinking like the just regular coffee that we get, and I guess they were joking about it. So he like went to the locker room, made him an espresso, and brought
Oh, that's really nice.
he's just like so like I could never
Oh, I'd fall
people
in
have
love if he did that.
people have their like what like and
Listen,
sure like,
I'm a latte girl.
yeah, there you go.
I need like an oat milk latte is how I start my day at
Like
home,
yeah, at
like
home.
with a proper espresso machine. That's how I do
Yeah,
it.
true. Yeah, I don't know. People have their like criticisms of coaches and that's whatever, but like once you like, you know, have those inside looks to this like to some of the
Right.
team, I'm like, I just love them.
Well, after the Warriors game, the Raptors
Yeah.
Warriors game, Draymond came out and said, like, "These guys are playing so hard for Darko."
Yes, yes,
Like, he
yes.
was genuinely impressed, which was, like, a real compliment,
Yeah.
like, there are some small short-term wins here
Oh yeah,
that
for
people
sure.
are definitely, losing sight of, but
Yeah.
anyways, we have another NBA topic before we
Okay.
get into Raptors, I think. And
Yeah.
that is because we've gone a little crazy here. So and I meant to, like, read all the details about this, but I have so many jobs. Um,
Mood.
the NBA is in talks to expand in Europe. Now, I believe that this would not be like an NBA team in Europe. I believe this would be its own NBA league.
Yeah, like a sub league, like almost like a G League, but like
A sub league that takes place in Europe, and I think this is really cool. I think this is really interesting. I don't know how economically this would affect the European leagues that already exist for basketball in Europe. I don't know how they're gonna feel about it, but I feel like the NBA has as long as I've been watching, like since the
yeah,
beginning of the Raptors, has always been about international expansion,
yeah, and I
and
think
this feels like the next wave of that in a really
yeah,
cool way,
it
hopefully,
could
because I
yeah,
don't necessarily like, I'm not invested in the other European leagues. I don't even know what they're called or what their teams are called, but I wouldn't want to be some, like, giant that, like, hurts those leagues.
yeah. Yeah, it's, like, interesting because it could end up being, like almost like an NBA like feeder system, like almost like again, like a G
Yeah.
League thing where like again, I would be 100% against it if you were asking the and normal NBA players to be traveling there to play like on a regular basis. I
Yeah,
get
that'd be
for like,
crazy.
a big
You
event that
want fewer games? Well, guess what? You're gonna have more games, and there's a new team in Paris, and you're all gonna have to go and
yeah,
play back to back. Deal
in
with it.
like I get the events that they do like once a year, like that's cool. But like yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
if they're using it as a way to like seek out talent and develop talent there, and then you can trade between the two, I think that's kind of cool. Like
Yeah.
I think that
Like
like
that, I think it's really cool. I agree.
yeah, like I think if they're happening at the same time and you're kind of like vibing it, where like, oh, like say Toronto is interested in like whoever from, I don't know, Germany or whatever, and
Mhm.
then you are able to trade and it kind of somehow works with the cap. I don't know. Don't ask me about cap stuff. That's Blake Murphy's game. But I just ask him when I have questions about the cap. But yeah, but like if they were able to figure it out in that way, I do think it's like a cool idea.
Mm.
I also think it's like a low key capitalistic venture to make more money? Sure, but what isn't these days?
Well, Adam Silver's all about the money.
Mhm,
Like, and I've been critical of Adam Silver on this podcast before, where like I don't think he's all bad, but like he's definitely like money first
mhm.
and everything else second.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Right?
It's interesting, but they've only like I don't know. There's not much to go off of because they haven't really said much
It's
about it.
not official yet, but it's just interesting that like they they're considering with 8 to 10 franchises. I don't know what countries exactly. They were referring to it as a semi-open proposal. Um
Can I make a point first?
yeah, please.
Here's my thing. The NBA owns the WNBA, right? And I'm like, before you start going expanding in other continents, like let's expand roster spots in the WNBA first because I don't know. And like definitely get that like the idea of like, oh, don't expand the WNBA too
I was gonna
fast. And
say,
like
like, have you heard of colonialism? No, I'm kidding.
but like
Just kidding.
before, yeah, we're like reverse colonialism back into Europe.
Yeah.
But it's like in my head, I'm like, okay, I get that you want to expand things, but like right now, the WNBA could use like 2 or 3 more roster spots per team. They could use a G League equivalent. They could use blah blah blah. And I'm like, sure, okay, like, but Europe already has a basketball league. Like, what? So anyway,
Mm.
that's just my 2 cents on it before we move on to actually talking about women's basketball. So ready to get in my bag
Yeah, well,
about
I
that.
think that's fair. I think we can segue and have a fun women's basketball segment here before we get into Raptors. Like yeah. Sorry, you made a really interesting point. One thing so okay, so for those we talked a little bit about this last week when Searat Sohi was on the pod and we talked about women's basketball here, which was really fun. And we talked about the WNBA and the potential strike, potential CBA coming up, how that might affect the tempo and things like that. One thing that I think is going to be a real talking point that is going to be difficult is expanding the roster spots. So the WNBA only has 12 roster spots per team, right?
Barely.
And the NBA has 15.
Yeah.
So it's like when there's an injury or something like that, it gets really tricky.
But also
And yeah,
it's
go
very
ahead.
rare for the WNBA to even use all 12. Most of them
Right.
do.
Players that get drafted after like the first 10 picks, sometimes even top 10 picks, don't necessarily make their team.
And that's going
Like
to
that's
change.
how that yeah, that's gonna change, but that's how competitive
Yeah.
it's been. So the roster spot issue is a big issue, but also too, like the one thing that kind of intrigues me about it is that it's player empowerment, but it's like the teams don't necessarily make more money by having more roster spots. So I think that is going to be a difficult negotiation because there's no financial incentive on the
Which
flip side to add these roster
everything
spots. It's just going to be something that is advocated for because it's just a need. So it's like it's going to become this like issue that I think people basketball fans are going to hear about more and more as those negotiations happen.
Yeah,
So
for
I just
sure.
wanted to add that because I think it's important.
It's good context for sure. And like, yeah, the fact of, yeah, they don't make more money because of it. I don't know. And there's this new media deal. I don't know. There's just so many things about the W that are going to be impacted by this strike and, or not, well, negotiation potential strike. I don't want to.
Yeah, we're all anticipating a lockout of some kind, but it's not obviously nothing's official just yet. Let's talk a little NCAA here before we get into basketball. Really, like one of the biggest things, probably one of the biggest stories in women's basketball this year is Juju Watkins going down and tearing her ACL. Really, really shitty. If you don't know, Juju Watkins is like the premier star next to Paige Beckers, right? In the NCAA, she's, athletes that tear an ACL typically do miss a year. So we don't know if she's going to miss the entire year next season and come back the year after.
See her red.
Yeah, like all of that is still to be determined, but someone who is probably slated to be drafted in 2027, first pick, like she's just like a no-brainer first pick, might not even make it to the W until 2028.
But there's a lot of argument to like suggest that even if the WNBA didn't have the draft rules that they did, which by the way, if you don't know, they need to graduate with a degree, either an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree, and they need to turn 22 in the calendar year that they're being drafted. So those are the two rules. Juju doesn't turn 22 until 2027, so that's the earliest she could be drafted regardless.
Right.
So like if she didn't get injured, that would be like her 4 years, right? So now if she redshirts next season, which I could see her doing just to keep that open for herself. But at the same time, Juju could be drafted literally. She could have been drafted last year and a team would have taken her and she probably would have gone, 1 or 2 or whatever. This year, she would have gone number 1 or number 2, right? Like, so in that sense, like she might, like I could see her not waiting doing the 5th year, just because she has that talent already, but also it's like her own personal decision. Either way, it's just been such a sad week. Like, it's just sad. Like,
yeah, it's one of those injuries that's sad for the game of basketball, for sure.
Yeah, and it's not like the entire tournament hinges on Juju. Like, that's way too much pressure to put on one person. The entire league is so good. There's so many great stories and teams and whatever. And even USC still has like a great chance of going far, even without her. They're an incredible team. But it's just like you hate to see someone that with that much potential and who brings so many eyes to the game and who is just like such a good role model and representation for the sport have to go through that. Like, it's just sad for her. It's sad for us as fans. It's sad for the sport, but it's also like, I think the thing that we're getting away from in this conversation this week is that like, oh, you can't watch anymore because Juju's not there. Like, it's still great.
Of course. Yeah.
There's
just still a lot of great teams.
Like, it's, it's not something that anyone wants to have to go through. And then it's also just frustrating. I wrote a whole thing about this week, but like women are proven to have more ACL injuries than men. Like, it's just like a physiological thing.
I saw that today. I was like, what the hell?
I wrote a whole article about it if you wanted to read up.
Really?
Later.
Oh my God. Okay, well, plug that article.
Yeah, to the listeners, I wrote something on Raptors HQ this week about it, but because I went into a deep dive of research because I was like, this is wild. But yeah, because of the way that women's like muscular structure is looser because of hormones and because we need to be able to like have babies, basically, and
childbearing hips.
And yeah, because of pelvic alignment and lower body alignment. Yeah. It makes it so that ACLs are more likely to tear in women. And so, yeah, there's like, and I'm not looking at the actual thing. There's like actual more physiological research that's gone into why women tear ACLs more. And like, yet all of the treatment and all of the recovery models are on men. Like, the way that they structure recovery is based on research done on men. There's no research on how to prevent this stuff in women or how to treat women on a day-to-day basis better because of the physiological differences that we have. And then we're just starting to tap into research about how to properly train women's professional athletes around things like the menstrual cycle or like people who have endometriosis and like stuff like that. Like, there's such a lack of research when it comes to women's professional athletes, and it's causing more harm. Like, it's causing more of these injuries. It's causing them to have to be out for longer. It's just like, I don't know, it's just a whole frustrating thing that I took a deep dive into this week, obviously, with everything that's happened. But yeah.
Well, I mean, it's good because, like, I didn't know this. I didn't maybe I saw your article and didn't even realize I saw your article because I saw that stat today on my social media and I was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
It's really wild and also really important. And, as somebody who had a surgery because of women's health. Oh, that
It's so
I've learned how little research there is on a lot of this stuff, and
Yep.
it's just absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's focus back on the Sweet 16 a little bit. Like, who, like, have you done a bracket? Like, who do you have? Who should we be watching out for?
Oh man,
Educate the masses,
educate the masses. Excuse me.
including me.
I have my serious bracket and I have my Delulu bracket.
Okay, great.
I have two. But in terms of Sweet 16 matches, Oklahoma UConn is a very interesting one, because Reagan Beers, who plays for UConn, she plays for Oklahoma. She was deciding in the transfer portal if she was going to go to Oklahoma or UConn. She picked Oklahoma. So that's just kind of like a fun story in that. But also, you have the extra lining of like Paige's last run, and you have AZ Fudd, who's back and playing very well for UConn. And then if they win, and then if USC wins their game against Kansas State, then you have that rematch of the Elite Eight from last year, UConn and USC. So that's a side of the bracket that I'm very intrigued to see. And then on the other side of the bracket, you have TCU and Notre Dame, which I want Notre Dame to win. So
Yeah,
bad.
I think that's gonna be like a battle.
Yeah, and you think about like Olivia Miles sprained her ankle last weekend, so like hopefully she's better. You excuse me, and then you have like Hannah Hidalgo and Sonia Citron, who kind of make up that trio in their backcourt. And like when they're on one, they're on one.
Like,
But
I
then,
think Notre Dame could win it. Like, I think they're a sneaky upset team.
yeah, but then they also they would have to face South Carolina in the Final Four, and that's kind of like, so
like that, you don't think that's gonna happen? I just think like they have the ingredients, they have the recipe of a winning team, I
They have
feel.
the ingredients, I think. But South Carolina is like their bench quite often outscores other teams, like
Right.
in total. So like,
Yeah, that's
and
insane.
yeah, so and unfortunately Duke with Toby Fournier, the Canadian, is on track to meet them in the Elite Eight if they win their game against North Carolina. So it's like that's gonna be fun to watch. But and then on like the top corner, you're talking about like Lauren Betts with UCLA and LSU, who again, like they're always just gonna be like a contender in there because they have like Flau'jae still and Anissa Morrow, and yeah, so it's gonna be intriguing. Currently in my bracket, I have UConn winning it.
Oh, is that the real bracket?
Yeah, my real bracket. Actually, so I made my first Delulu bracket, and I made it that Michigan one just because I wanted to, and then obviously they lost. But and then so yeah, now both my brackets are UConn. Just because like my thing is that I think they can beat USC even with Juju in the lineup. I thought that they could beat USC. Paige is just kind of on one. AZ's on one right now. I just think they have the capacity to like go on these big scoring runs. And then their potential Final Four matchup is UCLA currently if you're going within seeding. And like that's an interesting matchup because you have Lauren Betts, but also Sarah Strong is like generational. And then so you mix Sarah Strong with having Paige Beckers and AZ Fudd. And if they're all, doing their thing, then I think they have the potential to beat UCLA. And then, UConn beat South Carolina so bad in February, so they can beat that team. So I was just kind of like, I want it for Paige, but I also think that it's plausible. So that's kind of where my bracket ended up going. But I mean, South Carolina definitely has the ability to win again. UCLA has the recipes. USC even they've beat UCLA twice this season. So there's no saying they couldn't.
Yeah, USC is interesting to me because even though they lost Juju, they like Kiki Iriafen went off and scored like I think it was like 32 points.
36.
36.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's like if like I don't know if that's sustainable for her or not, but like if it is,
yeah, she can ball. She can ball like that.
I mean, they could still like have a deep
Yeah.
run.
Exactly. So yeah, it's really like we're getting to the point now where things aren't set in stone. Everything's, excuse me, up in the air, and like the parity is starting to show in the league. So, and the best part about this season is that the transfer portal is starting to open up. So like then you got all that juiciness happening, and then it's like, oh, it feels like free agency and college basketball, which I mean there's pros and cons to that, but it's just exciting as a fan to like see players be able to like go places and make money. It's fun.
Mm.
So
All right, let's move on to our Raptors homer moment. We talked a little bit about the tanking narratives that are happening.
yeah,
Another sort of old and tired narrative, but has resurfaced again this week is the quote unquote disadvantages to playing in Toronto. So last week, we had Thad Young go off in his comments, and then this week we had Rudy Gay
sure.
and Lou Will
Sure.
talk about it as well. Lou Will, I will give him some credit, had greater nuance to
Mm.
his take about the quote unquote disadvantages of playing in Toronto. He was the only one that talked about something other than customs, where like he actually talked about like the cultural differences of being in Canada and like adjusting to a new culture. I was like, okay, cool. That I can hear.
Yeah.
But I don't know why all of these players have suddenly decided to go on various podcasts hosted by other players to talk about customs. Like, I just feel like they all sound really spoiled.
Um, my
Am
opinion,
I
not
crazy for thinking that they're spoiled?
no, I definitely think that they're spoiled. I do think that this is a very incognito way to show their political views without necessarily
Oh,
saying that,
that
you
that they want America to take over?
yeah. That's just
Really?
weird conspiracy theory, but um I don't know. And then also like, yeah, these they are like they're spoiled. And when you think about it, like they're not even really going through customs. They're going through private airline customs. So like they're not waiting in the TSA line. They're getting like their own private line going here, especially with like I mean when they travel with the team. So it's like why are you mad about it? Also like when you're flying from Toronto to New York, it's going to even with customs, it's going to take less time than when you're flying from New York to LA.
Mhm.
So, like, why are you so mad about it? I don't know. I just think that they're, like, very used to not having to put much effort into anything, and so the, extra inconvenience of having to show your passport,
Like,
perhaps.
how good is your life that you're on a podcast and you're just complaining about having to go through customs a decade ago?
Yeah, and also, like,
Like, you have a really nice life.
it's cold." I'm like, "Yeah, it's cold. I've been here for 29 years of my life, and it's cold, and I hate
Yeah.
it. Like, take
The
some antibiotics
funny
like the rest of us."
the really funny thing about Rudy Gay is, he went on about, like, getting traded and then being booed, and then he's like, "Can you imagine being traded and then getting booed? Like, I didn't ask to be there." And it's like, "Well, you were only getting booed because we knew you didn't wanna be here, and
Yeah.
you made that explicitly clear."
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And also, like, you just, like at that stage of his career, he just, like, really wasn't, like, living up to his potential and
Yeah.
all these different things. It's like, Masai, when he got the job from Brian Colangelo,
Yeah.
his first thing he had to do was to trade Rudy Gay. Like, getting off of that contract was, like, his most important first mission.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and I remember, oh my god, okay, memories. So, I this is, like, 2013,
Okay.
and I'm in LA, and I'm just walking with a friend,
Uh,
and I'm like, "I recognize that guy. It's Rudy Gay."
of
And
course.
I'm like, "No way." And I'm, like, looking like, "Holy shit, that's Rudy Gay." And he's just, like, standing around with a bunch of his boys who are all, like, a foot shorter than him, which is, like you know what I mean? Like, it's, like, hilarious. Anyway, and then this one guy, like, catches me recognizing Rudy Gay, and then he's kinda looking at me like, "Do you wanna say hi?" But
Yeah.
I am not that girl. Like, I can't be that girl. Like, I'm not smooth like that.
No.
I
Yeah.
can't just be like, "Hey, Rudy, like, what's up? I recognized you, la, la, la." Like, I can't
I can't even do
be
that with
like that.
for media people. Like, Monica McNutt was at a basketball game, and I was so nervous to talk to her. Like, I just couldn't. And
I
Savannah
would be nervous too.
Savannah had to, like, introduce I was like, "I'm not going up to her just by myself, like, that's not happening." So,
You
Savannah
know.
had to, like, hold my hand and take me to go say hi to her. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I did it.
I'm not saying Rudy Gay would have been interested. I have no clue. I'm not, claiming that one way or the other. I'm just saying there was a moment in my life when I had an in and I was just like, but
You
it's Rudy
don't
Gay.
you don't wanna date an NBA player. You don't.
No.
You don't. That's too
I
messy.
mean, would I sleep with one just to say I did
And we're back to being unhinged. Let's go.
yeah, if they're not a child, I mean, they need to be of a certain
Of a certain
age,
age, yeah.
you know.
They
And
need to
I'm
be
not just talking age of consent. I mean, like, they need to be,
exactly.
like, over 30
Yeah, they need to
at
be in their
least.
veteran vet player contract era.
Yeah, I mean, if if
Uh,
if it's Klay Thompson, right? Like, if Klay Thompson
oh my
wants to
god.
say if Klay Thompson wants to say hi,
Oh my
sure,
god.
but it's not gonna be a relationship.
No.
Also, too, the odds of him just wanting to say hi, very low.
Yeah.
The odds of me being smooth enough, even
If they're
lower.
if
This
they're
isn't
angry
happening.
if they're mad that they have to go through customs, I don't think they wanna have a conversation with one of us normies.
I know. It's so true.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't realize that, like, 10 years ago, I was really in, like, my assistant coach era. Like, that's when I should have been looking at assistant coaches.
Oh, okay. My assistant coach era.
Yeah, I didn't know that, though, at the time. Had I
Well, you were
known.
like, "I wanna be an assistant coach." I was like, "You go, girl."
No, no. Just to be with one.
Yeah. I feel like, yeah.
That could be my in. That's
Yeah.
where I think I could be.
Yeah. Easy, like a good
If that, because 'cause
oh,
I'm a bit of a weirdo. Other story, this is just
right.
memories, because it's like, everything sucks right now. So, because I'm old. So back in
Okay.
2004, okay, Chelsea, when you were a literal child, you
I
were a
was
child,
a child.
you were, like, on a swing somewhere, okay?
Yeah.
Actually, you were in bed. So I was at a club, okay?
Okay.
I was, like, 19, I was, like, at a club,
Okay.
and who was there? It was Jalen Rose. Toronto Raptor, Jalen Rose, okay? This is, like, post Vince Carter. This might have been 2005 now that I think about it. This was post Vince Carter,
My bedtime went
okay?
so
I think this was 2005. Anyway, so and, like, I had, like, this really hot friend. Her name was Anna, and Anna was, like, stunning. She looked like Misha
I don't know
Barton
where are
from,
you
like, the OC or, like, Cameron Diaz or something. Like, she was,
what's
like, gorgeous.
what's
And then
Anna
there was, like, me. So I was just, like, awkward in comparison, but she was able to get into any VIP section of any club at any time, and then
doing?
would just, like, drag me with her,
Okay,
you know? And
cool.
then I wanted to talk to Jalen Rose, but I couldn't,
Yeah,
and I didn't.
that's so fair. I wouldn't have been
I
able
didn't. 19-year-old me couldn't do it.
19-year-old, yeah.
But
No,
it was like a Sunday night too at a club, because we didn't have class on Monday. So
yeah.
it wasn't even, like, as, like, full or crammed. Like, there were people there, but it wasn't, like, tight.
Prime
Like, I
NBA
could have
though.
easily
Yeah,
had
make
that convo, but I didn't.
hilarious.
I could have been Molly from ESPN from First Take. What's her name? Molly.
I don't know.
I forgot her last name. You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Molly.
yeah.
I could have been Molly. I could have been divorced. Oh, what a dream.
What a dream.
Imagine if I was divorced from a Raptor and then I started a podcast. Oh,
That would be buckets
incredible.
and tea for sure.
That would be buckets and tea.
Buckets and tea.
That would be very ideal.
Yeah. But
Okay,
also you
I
wouldn't
forgot.
need to do a podcast because 'cause you'd be like, "Money, money."
Yeah, I'd be a Real Housewife instead, or what, Basketball Wives.
Yeah, basketball wives.
Okay. I think it's time for our hottie highlight. So, Chelsea, I've given you two choices.
Yes.
One is shout out to Kevin Love from the Miami Heat, somebody I didn't think I'd necessarily mention. I mean, he's a universal hottie. Like, he has those generic handsome looks, right? But regardless of all that, he's been commenting on Jimmy Butler. He's actually had very funny social media moments throughout the year.
Yeah.
And he was kind of making fun of Jimmy Butler, like not really wanting to say hi to his former teammates and all of that, and then posted a clip of Forrest Gump running in response to that, which is like super, super funny. And then we have Charles Barkley with maybe one of the best quotes of the year, where he says, quote, "I've been poor, I've been rich, I've been fat, I've been skinny. The Clippers have always sucked." Which is just a banger of a quote. And that was when asked if the Clippers are quote unquote contenders this year for a championship. So Chelsea, who gets it?
I'm gonna have to go with Charlie Barkley.
I wonder if anyone calls him Charlie Barkley.
I don't know. Charlie Barkley.
It gives him a Charlie Brown kind of vibe. Like, I just want to play that little jazz music in the background.
Yeah, I mean, that quote is just too funny because, like, it's kind of relatable. Like, I mean, I haven't been rich, but, like, basically everything else is kind of and the Clippers do suck. So
I've been poor and I've been poor. I've been fat and I've been skinny.
It's like I've been poor and I've barely gotten by, and I've been fat and I've been skinny.
I've paid my bills and I haven't paid my bills.
I've been early on rent and I've been very late on rent. So yeah, that is my big.
Yeah, just an iconic moment from him.
Yeah.
All right, let's wrap it up there. Chelsea, thank you so much for joining me. Appreciate you so much. Let us know what you're up to and where we can find you on the internets.
I mean, yeah, I'm up to working a gajillion jobs, so you can find me on, Blue Sky and the Twitters and the Instagrams at Chelsea Leite. And I usually try to post my stuff there, but then sometimes I just get too busy that I don't. But anyway, obviously Raptors HQ is we're trucking along this Raptors season, and Toronto Tempo stuff is raising in tempo. I don't know. We're getting more rising, speeding up. I don't know. But anyway, I write about the WNBA for a variety of places. So so that's the vibe, and you can see me on there.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for listening and tuning in. Appreciate you. Hope you had fun with this silly episode as much as we did, because I loved it. Thank you again, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.